Hello, it's another episode of Today in Art. Today is August 20th, 2018. My name is Christopher Pack, also known as Chris, which I'm a working artist. This podcast is basically about learning, you and me going on a trip, learning more, learning daily about what art's going on, what's happening in the art world with certain art news and art events. Cool? Got it? Okay. Yeah, I've been drinking some coffee. I'm kind of tired too, so we'll see how this goes. Obviously, if there's the audio only version, which is I put it in Anchor and it shoots out to other podcasting services as well. And also, the video format itself will be on YouTube if you're wanting to see the images that go with whatever, say, article that I'm looking at. And all the links for the articles and such shall be in the description. So let's get into this. Uh, let's let's look at this one. This is from Time. Come on. No, don't you quit freaking ads. This is from Time Time magazine. Part of the World Fine Art series. The painter behind these artworks is an AI program. Do they still count as art? So we're getting into some more of the technology stuff, like we were talking about augmented reality a few days back. And this article actually came out just today, like 4 hours ago. Pretty good timing. I'm filming later in the day than usual, so we'll see how this goes. L'Homme Comtesse de Bellamy, one of 11 artworks in the Bellamy family created by Obvious using artificial intelligence. I'm guessing Obvious is the name of the AI. This is by Sierra Nugent. So you kind of have like almost, it looks like maybe like a 16th century kind of portrait of a female in some like kind of clothing of the day attire, but it looks like really kind of, I guess if you're listening, it's like it's a figure in clothes, but when you get like an image that's on your phone that's like someone screenshots it, then like it's screenshotted like 1,000 times as it gets like redone over and over and over again, where it's like really like kind of hazy and pixelated and super contrasting stuff. It's kind of like that filter, if you want to call it, is on top of a portrait of a person. So this might be actually pretty interesting. Hanging inside a gold frame on a pristine white wall in Christie's Central London Gallery is a dark, moody portrait of a man in Puritan-style black clothes. The work, it seems, of some old master, but scrawled in the bottom right corner, there is an unexpected signature, a mathematical equation. This is Edmond de Bellamy by French art collective Obvious, or more accurately, an algorithm designed by Obvious. The whole process is about humans having as little input as possible in the finished piece, says Gunther Veneer, one of the three 25-year-old Frenchmen who started Obvious in April 2017 out of their apartment in Paris. Since then, by teaching a computer about art history and showing it how to make its own work, Obvious has produced 11 artworks with the helpful artificial intelligence. It's has, not have, time. It's supposed to be a serious article. Get your grammar together. Anyway, it says the person that can't say a name. The team's motto is creativity isn't just for humans. Now they're starting to convince the art world that they're right. In February, Obvious sold its first piece, Le Comité de Bellamy to Paris-based collector Nicolas Lerugo-Lassaret for 10,000. I'm assuming is that pound? What is this? What is this symbol? Euro. Oh, euro. 10,000 euro, or about 11,430 US dollars. In October, they're auctioning Edmund at Christie's in New York, the first auction of the AI-generated work at a major auction house. So is this like printed out, I would imagine? Maybe we'll find out. Richard Lloyd, head of international head of prints. Yeah, that's what it says. And multiples at Christie's, arranged the auction and believes it will lay bare fundamental questions about art and creativity. Oh man. Everybody has their own definition of a work of art. He says, I've tended to think human authorship was quite important. That link was someone on the other side. But you could also say art is in the eye of the beholder. If people find it emotionally charged and inspiring, then it is. If it waddles and quacks, it's a duck. Have you seen or played the game Detroit Becoming Human? This is kind of a tangent, but stick with me. I know it's out for PS4. I think it came out in like March. I haven't played it. I've seen like playthroughs, but it essentially takes place in Detroit in like 2033, I believe, where like everybody has like like android human robots, and through the game like they become human. So there's like this whole, it's been in culture too, this whole like Terminator back in the 1980s, 1990s, this whole thing about artificial intelligence kind of taking over. Because I think even, I want to say Elon Musk says he doesn't even want to mess with it, because like the possibilities, like, because we take years to do stuff, like if AI became, relative, like in the matter of a week, it could do what it took us like 100 years to do. But they're thinking that it may not be, I know this is really a tangent, but they're thinking it may not be really that robots will take over. It'll be more of an integration between humans and robots. I mean, when you think about it, like people with limbs missing get artificial limbs, and there's like pacemakers and stuff, so we're kind of going in that direction. So how that kind of affects art will be interesting. And I also believe Google has an AI program where you can kind of, what was it, you draw something, do like a line drawing, and it tries to guess what it is you drew. So more and more technology in art will be interesting and net certain results. This is the Edmond de Bellamy, which goes on sales at Christie in New York in October. It kind of looks like a very washed out type of like, it's also another like almost kind of, I guess you can say gestural, or like very washed out like figure painting, probably around Renaissance-esque time. There's not like a lot of detail, and it's very washed out. So there's a whole Bellamy family, including Le Comité, La Comites, La Baron, and La Baronne de Bellamy. All slightly trippy, swirling portraits that look like they're from the 18th century. Okay, so I was off about 200 years. To make them obvious, use generative and adversarial networks, or GANs, a kind of algorithm first created in 2014 by Ian Goodfellow, an American AI researcher now based in San Francisco, who published his idea in an influential paper he wrote while at the University of Montreal. I would assume that takes us to the paper. Yeah, it's talking about the generative adversarial networks. Obvious named their first work Bellamy, a rough translation of Goodfellow in tribute to him. First, The Obvious team needed to code the networks to fit their own criteria. It's like building a bike. If you forget a part, it's not going to work, says Hugo Cassels Dupree, a PhD student of AI who is responsible for much of the tech side of Obvious's work. The team collected a set of 15,000 portraits from online art encyclopedia WikiArt spanning the 14th to the 19th century and fed them into GAIN algorithm. GAIN algorithms have two parts, the generator and the discriminator. The generator learns the rules of the portraits. For example, everything has two eyes and a nose, Dupree says, describing a process that takes about 2 days. Then it starts to create new images based on those rules. Meanwhile, the discriminator's job is to review the images and guess which are real ones from the data set and which are fake ones from the generator. As the generator attempts to fool the discriminator, it learns with each failure. When it succeeds, the process is finished and you have a new image. It's just not a copy or an amalgamation of the existing 15,000 images. Think of it as the 15,001st image, Dupree says. It's an original image. That's what's so cool. They call their new art movement Gainism. Obvious isn't the only group working on AI art. The Art in AI Research Institute at Rutgers University in New Jersey have been experimenting with it since 2012. In 2017, its researchers said they had used artificial intelligence to produce new styles of art that did not conform to any of those previously conceived by humans, raising questions about the limits of human imagination. Robbie Barrett, a college student from West Virginia, received praise for his own AI-generated nudes on Twitter in March. Well, let's look at the nudes. So it's very how would I describe that? Very fleshy, maybe surrealism, maybe like a soft edge kind of cubism type thing. That's kind of cool. Very trippy, maybe like nightmarish in a way. But Obvious is one of the first groups to bring its own work to life with tangible artworks. Perry Fattrell, the third and final member of the team, says that gives them an edge over AI art shown on blogs or websites when it comes to convincing the art world that what they're doing is worthwhile. The conservative art world is more accepting of the physical pieces, he says. They get that we're not trying to trick the art world. We want to be contemporary artists. Here's another one. Looks like a male figure. I mean, you kind of have places for the eye and the nose and the mouth, but it kind of looks like pixelated and like the face is kind of disfigured a little bit. Le Baron de Bellamy is the name of that one. Despite some uncertainty around calling it art, including from Lloyd, the team has been surprised by the level of interest in the work. One thing about our art is that nobody is indifferent to it. Fattrell says people either love it or really like it or basically hate it, but nobody says whatever. Can I say whatever then? I mean, it's cool, but I don't know. I'm sure there's a ton of work that went into this. As well as philosophical questions, discussions concerning the growing capabilities of AI often spark fear of job losses and suspicion. Some have suggested that AI's ability to create thousands of new, unique images at the touch of a button is a threat to the principle of scarcity that gives art some of its value. But Dupree insists they're not viewing AI as a mass-producing replacement for human artists. He compares today's experiments with AI to the dawn of photography in the mid-1800s, when miniature portrait artists lost their job. Back then, people were saying that photography is not real art, and people who take pictures are like machines, he says. And now we can all agree that photography has become a real branch of art. Some people still say photography is not really a fine art, or it's easy, because you just click a button. I mean, there's a lot going into it if you do it correctly. But, you know, there's also people that say like abstract and non-representational painting isn't really art as well. It just depends how contemporary or modern their view of art is. Soon, obvious plans to play with specific styles like Impressionism and experiment with samples from different cultures to create new images. So, with the Impressionism, like, usually with these, they're like very, with like traditional paintings, they're very like flat, like physically on the surface. But I know with like Impressionism, they're very like heavy-handed, where there's like thick applications of paint, and you see like the brush strokes and stuff. So I'm wondering if they're trying to, if they're still just creating an actual image, or they're trying to create an actual, I know they said they're creating like physical pieces, but I'm assuming that's like printing the image onto canvas instead of taking, because I paint with like palette knives and like heavy applications on wood that creates, you know, all this texture. And like when you use brushes, you have like the brush hairs going through there as well. So I'm wondering if they're trying to replicate that physical aspect as well as some kind of like weird, I mean, I imagine if they had some kind of weird paint 3D printer in the future, possibly in the future, possibly something like that could happen. I don't know. Soon, obvious plans to play with specific styles like Impressionism and experiment with samples from different cultures to create new images. We're really interested in the Asian art market, says Futrell. But for their first collection, the team wanted to invoke the first thing most people think of when they think of art, which is a old-looking portraits in a museum with golden frames. Golden frame. It says veneer. Veneer? I don't know. We wanted to use these parallels to stress the connection with proper art because we don't just want to do graphic design or creative coding. For Lloyd, the Bellamy's proximity to human-made art offers a first taste of what will one day become a common experience. We're all going to go through this culture shock again and again, where we think we're talking to or interacting with a human and suddenly we realize it's a robot, Lloyd says. It's a light bulb moment that we'll keep having online, on the phone, in public space. Obvious's work is just the beginning. There is that too. I can't remember what company it is, but they have like call centers that are like the robots, like AI robots, that unless you ask like specific questions, you at first wouldn't know, because they kind of like, they're, I guess through so many generations of like talking and stuff, they've learned like kind of how to almost communicate with humans without them knowing. So that is interesting. But like I was saying, like I can understand, like with photography, like when you, cause you create it, then whenever you like, because you have to like print it out, so it's a very flat image, which with the computer creating an image, you can just run it through a printer and it's the same thing. But when you start dealing into like creating like textures on the surface, I'm wondering how, or if that's something they plan on doing, or if it's just going to be like creating an image and it's almost like printing out a photo of that painting. when people do like what they call it, glisel prints, or they just do like photo prints of paintings. So I'm kind of curious how that will turn out. But I mean, it's still interesting stuff. I'm wondering if somebody can use it to, I think if somebody codes it where it takes, maybe if you go to a gallery and it starts like you can go into a booth or like stand in front of something and it'll take like an image of your face, and like everybody that passes through there, like it starts like collecting data to like start, or it's taking actual like photos, its own photos, and trying to make that into art itself. I don't know. It's very, there's like a lot of possibilities with it, but who knows? I mean, when you think about like the smartphone, who thought that would have been the way it is? Like even what, say like 15 years ago? Because I had the first, I guess you can say the first smartphone I had was like probably like a Palm Centro, and that was back in 2008 maybe. And it like, cause I remember like you could like watch video on it. Like I could go on YouTube and like watch YouTube videos on it. I'm like, oh, this is like crazy. And now like over half of people's views come on cell phones. So technology seems to be, obviously with like more and more people, it seems to be advancing like faster and faster. Then also when you introduce computer programs and AI that can work, you know, essentially 24/7 without like sleep or rest, I mean, that even makes it more exponential in growth of things. So that's pretty interesting. We'll end it there. It has been Today in Art with AI, our computer overlord's going to be taking us over in a few years. I had another thing too. I believe there was, I can't remember where exactly it was at, but they had AI and they had like two AI computers communicating, and like essentially they created like their own language, their own language of communication that like the researchers or developers didn't understand. And I believe they may have killed that program, or I can't remember exactly what they did, but like they made up their own like efficient program to communicate with each other. But yeah, I am going to end it there. It's been Today in Art, August 20th, 2018. This will be up on YouTube. Christopher Pack. Yeah, Christopher Pack. It'll be on Anchor, Today in Art. You can follow me on Instagram, Christopher Ray Pack. Facebook, you can look at Christopher Pack Art, I guess, because I switched it from the Instagram account. Or you can just do on Twitter, ChrisPack1986. So have a good day. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you later. Bye.